Hello everybody, what is going on? Welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to compare this beautiful ZX6 from Kawasaki to this beautiful CF Moto SR675. We're going to talk about the power of those beasts, we're going to measure acceleration, we'll talk about maneuverability, we'll also speak about ergonomics, and I'll be riding those motorcycles on the street. So if you want to see that and even more, then this video is for you. I'll hop on those bikes, we're gonna ride them back to back, and let's see which bike is the best. One thing to understand is that this is ZX6, which you get from China. And in China, we have 38 tooth sprocket. Can you freaking imagine that? Even though we are not allowed to ride on highways, we can only ride in the city where speed limits are 60 kilometers per hour. But somehow Kawasaki decided to equip this bike with a tiny little sprocket which has only 38 teeth. That's just crazy. My goodness. Yeah, I feel like this bike ain't supposed to compete with this R675. This bike is way more powerful, but I would still say that 0 to 100 is supposed to be very close, because as I've mentioned before, it takes some time for the power to kick in. The bottom end torque on this motorcycle is pretty bad, I would say. That was good. I feel like the sprocket is something I would freaking change right away if this would be my motorcycle. I don't know, I don't really need the top speed in the city. Ooh, look at that. This is my best acceleration so far, dude. From 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. 3.66 seconds. Alright guys, so this was my best acceleration. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour was 3.52 seconds. Yeah, the front wheel comes up all the freaking time. So you open the throttle, and just now, as I was opening the throttle, the front wheel came up, but again, I hit the dip in power, so my acceleration wasn't too good. But then, as I was, I don't know, hitting the sweet spot in terms of revs, the front wheel came up again. It was like power wheelie at 100 plus kilometers per hour. So this bike is crazy freaking powerful. This is not a good motorcycle for a beginner, that's for sure. Again, my best acceleration, just now I checked, verified acceleration by the way, was 3.66 seconds from 0 to 100, which is a very good result. But yeah, by the way, I was riding exactly the same spot where I was riding my SR675, where the acceleration was invalid. So still I would say that from 0 to 100 with me riding SR675 will be faster than this bike. It's just way easier to launch. The takeoff is way faster, way sharper on SR675. Just feel faster, you know what I'm saying? My point is, the launch feels better and faster, but then once you freaking get to 10,000 RPM or so, this is just a bullet, this is just a jet, this is just on another level. You cannot compare the power of this bike to SR675. It feels way more effortless compared to this bike. This bike requires you to exert so much effort to ride. Like, the ergonomics is pretty much the same, I would say, but everything else on this bike feels way more aggressive. Like, the clutch is way stiffer, the throttle is way freaking more difficult to twist. So this bike isn't your perfect motorcycle for a street. It's not a perfect motorcycle for commuting. This motorcycle would be better for, I don't know, for a track, I guess, for twisties maybe. With that being said, I would tell you guys that actually, even though this motorcycle is just as heavy or just as light as R675, when you ride it in a city, it feels way heavier. It feels bigger, you know, dimensions-wise. This motorcycle feels way bigger, way less maneuverable, I would say. If you were just talking about city riding, it's not as easy to maneuver around. For me, maneuverability in a city is a very important factor, and this is probably why I would still pick SR675 over this bike, let alone that in China SR675 would be, I don't know, almost 3 times cheaper than this motorcycle, which is just crazy. Alright guys, I need to address my results on ZX6 and on this CF Moto. You gave me some shit for my accelerations, you gave me some shit for my drag racing, for my upshifts. You were saying, dude, you're pissing me off with your upshifts. How come that you're always upshifting in the red zone? Like, you hit the limiter every single time, you douchebag, you have no freaking idea how to do I don't know, drag racing, how to shift the gears. But guys, let me be honest with you. As I was measuring acceleration 0 to 100, as I was measuring acceleration many times over, I found out that the bike performs the best if you upshift while you're in the red zone. The red zone on this motorcycle is extremely short. I hope that those people who are gonna get this motorcycle in other countries, I hope that you guys gonna get a motorcycle which you can rev up a little bit more than this, because the red zone here starts at about 11,000 and you're going to rev it up at about 12. And on the dash, this distance is literally so short, like you have a fraction of a second to react, to upshift. If you want to accelerate as efficiently as possible, if you want to get the best result, you need to upshift in the red zone. Every single time I was upshifting at 10,000 or 10,500 RPMs, my result was way worse. So this bike requires the red zone for optimal performance. And this red zone is so freaking tiny. And this is my biggest complaint. Don't you find it interesting, guys, that on ZX6, pretty much every single upshifting was pretty much perfect. And it feels right. It feels so freaking good. And in my defense, guys, I was riding these two motorcycles back to back, and they cannot be more different. On ZX6, power kicks in at about 8,000-9,000 RPM, and then you just enjoy this ferocious power for 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. And then you can upshift, and you're just getting a great result. On this bike, as soon as you start enjoying, you hit the freaking rev limiter, which is really bad. I don't like it. The difference is huge. ZX6 feels heavier, it feels more aggressive, but not in terms of ergonomics. It's just like the throttle is heavier, the clutch is stiffer. I don't know, the suspension was a little bit stiffer as well, but we have full adjustable suspension, so I feel like you can make this bike super stiff as well. But feelings-wise, CF Moto just feels way more effortless. CF Moto feels like a toy. Meanwhile, ZX6 feels like a track weapon, which is not very suitable for a street, you know, if I'm being honest. Bottom and torque on CF Moto is way better, way more suitable for a city. And if you're gonna race from the traffic light to the traffic light, most likely this bike would be faster. But I need to freaking mention, dudes, that after ZX6, this bike feels like way less powerful. It feels a little bit boring later on in RPMs. I do miss this power of ZX6. I need to address one thing. Many people in comments told me about death wobbles on this SR675, and I can actually really relate to that. I can understand where those comments come from. From time to time, as I launch this bike, the front wheel comes up a little, and then as you land, there's this slight twitch in clip-ons, and I catch it pretty much every single time I launch the bike hard, given that the launch has this front wheel coming off. So once the front wheel comes off and then you kind of land, there's a slight twitch in handlebars, and I did notice it as well. And I really want to get the steering damper for that problem. I don't even know whether it will be better or not. This bike isn't as stable as ZX6. Once you're riding on the highway, there may be a problem of crosswinds. So crosswinds can dramatically change your trajectory. Hold up. Ooh. Holy shoot. The tank is a little bit slippery, to be honest, but there are two really pleasant indentations for your knees, so oh yeah, you still feel very comfortable. But yeah, I would definitely put on those stickers so I'll not slide around. Once you hit the sweet spot in terms of its power, dude, it's like it feels almost as fast as a liter bike. I'm not joking. But the problem is that bottom end torque is pretty poor, especially with this tiny little sprocket from behind. So yeah, guys, this motorcycle is a beast, but it's not optimal for a city, and given the price, I would definitely choose SR675. You can take off much faster. 0 to 100 acceleration would be a little bit better, I would say, and it's way easier to manage, it's way easier to launch. Ooh, but this bike, guys, I feel like with a 43-2 sprocket, it will be so much better. This initial delay in power is pretty nasty, I don't like it, but then once you hit the freaking sweet spot in terms of its power, just like a liter bike, it's so freaking fast. The power is overwhelming, scary as hell. Oh. And brakes are freaking awesome, especially when you go hard. Ooh, yeah. I was saying the same thing about SR675, by the way. Brakes are speed oriented, and what I mean by that is that when you go really hard and then let's say you're 150 kilometers per hour fast and then you just slam the brakes, I mean, the bike stops as if there's a freaking post which you hit. So the stopping power is impressive. On ZX6, gearbox works a little bit better once you go hard. A quick shifter definitely works better. It's a little bit more precise, it's smoother, and there's no delay. And on SR675, in the red zone, there's a substantial delay. Not even delay, I would say that once you upshift, there's just this cut in power, as if you have to wait for the power, you know, once you're shifting from the first to second gear, and I don't like it. Alright guys, so the summary of this video will tell you that I love the ZX6, of course. It feels more refined, it feels, I don't know, it feels way more expensive than CF Moto, but simultaneously it feels way less suitable for a city. The bottom end torque with this 38 tooth sprocket is pretty poor. With that being said, once you go hard on this bike, it's way more powerful. The power will be just overwhelming, it'll be scary. Like, the inline four screams so freaking loudly and ferociously. Just like, I don't know, you'll never ask for more sound, that's for sure. If you feel tired on ZX6, you will also feel tired on CF Moto SR675. The only difference is that the seat of this motorcycle is a little bit higher, so maybe this would contribute into this additional aggression. However, once you ride this bike, it feels pretty much the same as SR675 in terms of ergonomics. I don't feel any additional pressure on my wrists. It feels very much the same. And once you open the throttle, there is a substantial delay in power, so you need to wait for the power to come. And on SR675, this power is way more accessible at the beginning. So bottom end torque of SR675 would be way better and way more suitable for a city. Maneuverability wise, this bike is less maneuverable in city conditions. Once you try to maneuver around in the traffic, it's a little bit more difficult. And again, this bike is stiffer. We have a heavier throttle, we have a stiffer clutch, so this motorcycle is more aggressive. It's also more stable. I would mention that the brakes are better on ZX6. We can do some stoppies if you want, so the brakes are a little bit sharper, they're a little bit bitier. I cannot say that they're more predictable. Once you go hard on both motorcycles, brakes work really well. This bike feels more refined, I'll not lie. It feels like a more expensive motorcycle, that's for sure. But vibrations wise and feelings wise, I would say that SR675, I mean, doesn't feel worse. I would actually argue that SR675 has even less vibrations, because as I ride this ZX6, I hear some little tiny buzzing coming from the front part of the bike. And when I ride SR675, there's zero vibrations. But the materials on this ZX6 are way better. They feel way more expensive, way more luxury. This motorcycle feels way more luxury. Crazy thing, but fuel consumption on ZX6 is better than on SR675. Can you imagine that? And of course, I need to mention that on ZX6, we have a little bit more tech. We have modes, we have integrated traction control. So if you're looking for something which would have more technology, would be a little bit more refined, ZX6 is your choice. But again, guys, this motorcycle is way more expensive. And if you would ask me, so in the end of the day, do you enjoy ZX6 more than SR675? Absolutely not. I do enjoy SR675 more because, as I've told you many times over, SR675 feels way more effortless. It feels as if you ride a tiny little beginner's bike on steroids. It wouldn't be as fast later on in RPMs, but street-wise, it will be just as fast, if not faster. You'll be able to take off much faster. It will be way more maneuverable and agile in city conditions. And yeah, probably for a track this bike would be better, but given that there's not a single track around, I would definitely choose SR675. Yeah guys, this was my humble opinion on those two motorcycles. Please let me know what you think about ZX6. What do you think about this tiny little sprocket? I really want to know. What do you think about SR675? Which bike would you choose? Obviously the price in your country would be different, but yeah, I'm gonna read all your comments. Yeah, if you like the video, subscribe to my channel guys, hit the like button, and as always, stay safe, and I see you in my next videos. Bye bye everybody.